They were rampaging along, won their first 2 games. They've lost their last 2, but they could have probably won both of them.
A fantastic looking facility there in the deep south.
I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight.
From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week, or?
From bottom with 6 points and second from bottom with 3. Yes and no. Yes and no. It paid off for them. They got a 2, double the 4 and won 6 points. Depends what the teams above them do, doesn't it?
Welcome to the Bowls Hour, brought to you by Somerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel. I am Alex Reid, and in this episode I'm joined by our CEO, Mark Cameron. But before I introduce him properly, I just want to go through what we're going to do today. So today we're going to talk to one of our newly crowned National Champion of Champion singles winners, Dean McMurchy, about his career and how his weekend's gone. But first, Mark, I thought we'd go through some of
He had a good weekend, didn't he?
He had an okay weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
If we talk to him and he's disappointed with his weekend, I don't know where to go from there, to be honest. But I thought before we chat to Dean, I thought we could go through some of the things that have been happening and are going to happen in the world of Bowls New Zealand. So you start wherever you want to, Mark, and we can go from there.
All right, we've got some topics. So thank you, Alex. Thanks for inviting me along. We do miss Miles. One day Miles is coming back, is he?
One day, yeah.
We hope.
Yeah. I won't commit any further than that, but we'll certainly hear his voice again.
No. In fact, I did catch up with him a couple of weekends ago at the North Harbour Awards, the Bowls Awards. So he was in fine form, but he's enjoying life down there in Wellington these days. Look, I thought I'd jump in and just cover a few topics.
Yep.
Champ of Champs. We'll talk a little bit about that. And our national events this year, where they're around the country, Com Games, we've got North and South coming up, we've got a few other bits and pieces. So if you're happy for me to rattle a little bit, but you should play the role of Kevin Hickland here.
Okay.
And ask me questions.
Yep.
So how about you just ask me whatever the first topic is, and we'll go from there.
This is a brilliant plan. Okay,
Yeah.
So the first topic, and it's brilliant because we've just spoken about the Champion of Champions. So can you just chat to us about the Champ of Champs series that we've had going for the last couple of years, Mark?
Yeah, there's still a little bit of debate around whether we hold it in winter or whether we try and move it, squeeze it, push it back into that summer period. And I think it's a reasonable debate, especially if you're from the bottom of the South Island and it's a struggle to get access to artificial carpet greens in the winter months. So there's a little bit of debate there, but I guess what's really encouraging is the number of players, clubs and regions that are supporting these events. So I can recall starting out in 17, 18 and we were getting 14, 15, 16 type centres turning up out of the 27 when we had the Champ of Champs. We're now getting consistently 21, 22. So that's really, really pleasing.
And that turns into 40 or 40 plus competitors, doesn't it? Because it's the men's and the women's held in the same venue, which I think is a good idea.
Yes, and then it's 40 times 2, Alex, which is...
Teams, we'll say 40-something teams, and then 80-something, whatever.
Players. Brilliant. I was just going to test your maths
Teams,
there.
yeah.
So look, the Champ of Champs is going really well though, and we're really pleased this year. Tamara's done a great job with the live streaming. That split screen, I don't know if anyone else felt it, but it took a while to get used to. You're watching 2 games, and invariably I found myself, I had to almost focus on one. And a lot of respect to the commentators that we had who also had to try and navigate through a split screen. But I think that's a nice innovation. It's not something that will be there for the big finals. When we're doing the national singles finals or North South, which we'll talk about later on, I think we'll try and focus on one game. But these sort of events, having a split screen and therefore getting more people on TV. I popped into my local club on Saturday afternoon, and we're a neighbouring club to Bart Robertson from Helensville, and we would have had 30, 35 people watching Bart on TV. It was quite funny because they're all looking at the left-hand side of the screen as well for the entire 2 hours.
They've got a big screen; it makes it easier, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And we obviously, but I can imagine that that was my local club. Helensville would have had a number of people. Dean's club would have had a number of people, and right through the weekend. So So I think that's been a nice innovation. A really good innovation is the all-day broadcast of the Champ of Champs and the split screens, and it's just it's going from strength to strength.
Yeah, for sure, and long may it continue. From the Champ of Champs to a slightly bigger competition, the Commonwealth Games. That's all the teams been announced now, and we know they're off to wherever they're going soonish. Mark, what do you want to chat to us about the Commonwealth Games from?
Yeah, there's a lot of detail there, wasn't there, Alex? Soonish and things like that.
Yeah, I didn't want to
steal my thunder.
To steal your thunder. I thought I'd just give you a hint as to where we might be going.
Yeah. So the team leaves, the Blackjacks and the Parajacks leave July 17, 18, around that sort of period. They'll do the better part of 10 days in the UK preparing before they go into the event proper. So it's a real challenge for our team. We have a squad of 18 people, plus 5 or 6 support staff, I think, are heading over there as well. We experienced in Australia 9-10-second greens, and they were a real challenge. I mean, you saw it as well. I think you might have even had a go on one of the greens.
I had a go, and it probably took 20 minutes or 5 or 6 ends for me to get level with the jack.
Yes.
With the bowl.
In fact, I recall you played Graham Skaloon in a practice game.
I did play Graham
and
Skaloon.
After 2 ends, Graham was leading 8-0.
I'm happy to say I scored points against Graham. How many points is irrelevant?
Yeah, very good, very good. So the point there though is that those surfaces, those greens are going to be a challenge, and that's not to offer excuses at this stage, but it's just the reality of our bowlers from New Zealand and potentially even Australia heading up to the UK. They are foreign conditions. Equally though, when they come down here, it's foreign for them when we're running at 17, 18, even 19 seconds.
Yeah.
So there's some challenges there, but I know the team are looking forward to that challenge, and there's a really nice culture within this group as well, a good mixture of players. I wouldn't like to single out any disciplines for potential success, because I genuinely feel they've probably all got the same aspirations and probably the same chances of meddling.
Do you think having someone like Mike Kernahan as the head coach has been helpful, given that he's he's the last man to have won a Commonwealth Games medal for New Zealand? Yeah,
I think, I genuinely think Mike has freshened up the HP program for us. We always need some change and some freshening up, and the point you're making is the sheer fact that he's had experience up there and been successful up there is really, really important. That's not to take away from that wider support team as well. Gail Melrose is heading up there to, shall we say, lead the women's side of the campaign. Mike Carroll supporting the men's. Phil Skoglund supporting the para athletes. And rounding it out, we've got John Quinn from a mental skills perspective, and Waikato's own Julie Blake is the team manager.
Has she been practicing, Mark? Do we know?
So there is a little slight concern that if we potentially have a couple of female players go down with COVID, that Julie Blake might end up on the green, having only played, I think, 1 or 2 nights of Business House Bowls.
Discovery of a new high performance athlete from Julie, but let's hope that doesn't eventuate. Do we know what sort of coverage? Do we know what sort of coverage we're getting for the Com Games yet, Mark, or is that still something in flux with the powers that be?
Look, it plays out. These things play out through the game. So I think that the organisers, and I'm pretty sure it's Sky this year, isn't it?
It's Sky, yeah.
Sky will obviously run a number of channels, but they'll pick on events that have New Zealanders in them, and obviously events that we're potentially meddling in as well. So I imagine there's a huge juggling act. I heard yesterday there's 260, 280 athletes going up to the games. That's a big team. That's a lot of television coverage. So it'll be a case of watching or keeping up with the channels, I guess. We do have Alex Reid at the Bowls New Zealand office, who'll maintain a Facebook page and updates, and will let people know when our athletes are likely to be on TV, I think.
Yes, he will, and we'll do our best to make sure that we get some of or as much coverage as possible. So, segueing to something in September now, Mark, we've got lots of things happening on the same weekend. There's a North-South, an awards thing, and an AGM. Which one do you want to talk to us about first?
All three. So it's really nice. We're taking the North-South. We're taking our awards evening and our AGM to Dunedin this year. And I've been a little bit conscious in the last 2 or 3 years that we haven't had events down there in Dunedin. We've been Wellington, we've been obviously Auckland, Christchurch, Central Otago. We had planned Taranaki this year. Napier Hastings is getting a nice run at the moment, but we didn't have much down that Dunedin area. So it's really, really pleasing. It sounds a bit simple, but the AGM down there. So we'll have the better part of 50 or 60 people at our AGM.
Must be the first time in a while the AGM's not been in Auckland.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always been in Auckland, and I guess financially it makes sense to have it in Auckland. Certainly the last couple of years, though, it's been over Teams video or Zoom video. But if the AGM is down there, and therefore the awards evening, which is it's nice to bring that back after 3 years. So we'll have a big awards evening on the Friday night in Dunedin, and I know Erin has found a venue for that. And then a real feature for the weekend is the North and South. So it's a new format. I think you're going to post something in the next 24, 48 hours on the North-South format.
Yep, very shortly.
And I'll give it away a bit by saying that we have appointed Sharon Sims to the North. So now you're going to have to post this.
It'll be up. People will know this already.
Brilliant. Sharon Sims has been appointed as the North's non-playing captain, and Dave Edwards has been appointed as the South's non-playing captain. And they will choose 8 players each, 4 men, 4 women, to represent their island in a challenge. Those 8 players will play singles, pairs, triples and fours, which will be really exciting. Men will play women. So the fours won't just be the 4 men and the 4 women. It'll be a 2 men, 2 women scenario. Pairs will be mixed. But even singles, if one of the non-playing captains wants to put a female up against the male, then those are the rules.
Yeah.
And another feature too is we really want to celebrate through this event and through televising this event the diversity, the inclusivity of our sport. So the teams will not only be that gender balanced, but there'll be an over 65 bowler in each island side. There'll be an under 26 bowler as well, and there'll be a para bowler. So whether that's hearing impaired, vision impaired, or physically disabled, we will have that level of inclusion and diversity within these teams. So I think it's just a great promotion of our game, of the inclusion of our game. The diversity as well. I'll finish it off and say that the details are all floating in my head at the moment. I know it's going to be 2 sets as well with a tiebreaker.
Yes.
So it won't be the traditional first to 21 or 18-15 ends. It'll be 2 sets and a tiebreaker format for every single game, singles, pairs, triples and fours.
Yeah, that should be good. North versus South is always going to be, people get on board that bandwagon. It's the same as like if New Zealand plays Australia. It's a similar feeling. And I'll be pretty disappointed if the North Island loses. I'll just put that out there into the ether. We can't be having that
Well, they would
happen.
They'd be favourites.
They have to be, yeah. And there's no one here to disagree with us.
No.
So we'll just manufacture that. But I'm looking forward to it. It should be good, and the coverage of that will be great as well. And obviously, in the weeks leading up, we'll be posting things on social media and the website about who's playing and who we think might be.
Yeah, I think that'll be quite exciting when we get Joe and Dave up on screen, and Joe says, I'm going to put up this player in the first singles game, and Dave gets to select who he plays against that player. And then it'll flip around, and Dave will go first and Sharon will go second. And I think that'll add a bit of interest as well, is to say, well, what is the strategy here? What are they looking to do? And is a favourite playing a less favourite? Does it really make any difference?
It's going to be some cool results coming through, I think. I'm looking forward to it. So moving on from that then, Mark, we've got a new complaints service, which is available in most places. I suppose you'll tell us where it's available. Do you want to have a chat to us about what that is and how it's going? It's been going for a few weeks now, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been going for a few weeks. So we're acutely aware that our current complaint system is, it's good for a number of things at club and regional level, but it gets a little bit astray on us when, shall we say, there's a complaint that goes through at a club level. This is using an example. A complaint goes through at a club level, and the people hearing the complaint are mates, people that they have a beer with around the bar, Lena, or whatever it might be, or the people hearing the complaint just don't really, not lawyers, they're not, they're not equipped, they don't have that skill set to deal with a complaint. So what we've brought about or implemented is a alternative complaint system where, if there is some poor behaviour, and there is some behaviour on our greens that needs to be sorted out, and in our bars and our club rooms as well. If there is poor behaviour, then you can throw your complaint through this process. Hopefully it's quick, it's efficient, it's confidential, and it can be managed in a better way. So it's there. It's additional. I think you might have talked to Martin about this in the past, but from my perspective, I just want to really push, and we'll keep pushing it. Primary objective is to get rid of some of that behaviour that exists not only in bowls but in sport in general. Try and get it out of the game.
No, that makes sense, and it makes sense to have that sitting there. So if you're listening and you're wondering where it is, you just go onto the Bowls New Zealand website, and there should be a picture somewhere that says Complaints and Mediation Service, I think is what you might have called it, or
yes.
what we might have called it.
Yes.
And if that fails, Martin McKenzie is the man that we'll throw under this particular bus. So just even if you Google Martin McKenzie Bowls, or if you click the About Us bit, you can find his email address and phone number, and he'll put you onto the right place. And I'm sure he won't mind us.
He won't mind, but not this week.
People know.
We are 1, 2, 3 down with COVID this week.
Yeah.
Doing their 7 days, and that for Bowls New Zealand is the complete package now, isn't it?
The full lot, yeah. We've ticked off the bingo.
Yep, everyone Bowls New Zealand has now had COVID in the past 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you get a certificate for that from the.
We should do. We should get something.
Yeah.
When the bingo card. Okay, moving on from the complaint service to Bowls Hub Aotearoa. That's been going for a while now as well, Mark. What did you want to have a chat to us about?
Yeah, just to reinforce its merit. So Bowls New Zealand, if you enter an event at any of our national events this year, then it'll all be going through Bowls Hub.
Yeah.
So that's singles, pairs, fours, mixed pairs, inter-centre, inter-club, Bowls 3-5, secondary schools. Have I missed one? No. Oh, all of the above.
And anything that we haven't mentioned is also on Bowls Hub.
So we're using it at national level, and the benefits are that, and you would have, for those that followed the Champ of Champs in the weekend, it was really nice. I was watching one of the games on TV, and I was interested in the score of another game, and as soon as the game had finished, whatever rink it was on, it was updated, it was live, it just happened straight away. So there's no delaying, and for those that are involved in administration, generally speaking, what happens with our draws is that we wait for all the cards to come in at the end of the round, and then we put it into a spreadsheet or whatever it might be, then we create a PDF, and that PDF then goes up into the internet. I'm speaking like a real techie.
Oh, you're right so far.
Yep.
And
that takes time.
Yeah.
And that is whether that's a half an hour or 20 minutes, it just takes time. Whereas with Bowls Hub, it's literally got your phone rink side, and you just type in 21-7. Bang, it's done. It's up there in the reporting mechanism, and updates the points tables and everything like that. So really, really pleased with that. The beauty about Bowls Hub though is that result, so that 21-7 result, is linked back to the players in the game. So they now have a history in Bowls Hub of all the matches they played, whether it was singles, pairs, triples or fours, whether it was round robin games or finals. We're able to actually build a profile of a bowler, and that's really exciting, because once we start getting that history, we can start having conversations with bowlers and say things like, simple stuff like, well done Alex, you've just had your 100th win of the season, or whatever it might be. That might be a bit many, but
I'll take it.
Yeah. We might start to look at it and start going, we've got all these results around these players. These players, based on their results, perform at a level, and these players are really performing at a D level. So maybe there's some sort of grading system that comes out of that as well, which in turn might be an alternative to the junior senior type discussion we're having at the moment.
I think it's probably also a good tool for our New Zealand selectors and talent identification people. If you're playing a national event, you have to be a member of Bowls Hub, so ergo your results will be available to those looking. And there's often ones who bubble up sort of under the radar. Someone might consistently be making quarterfinals of our events. That's worth having a look at. So I think it'll be helpful there as well.
You're entirely right. So the good news is that obviously we're doing it at national level. My understanding is, and correct me here, that Northland, North Harbour, Waikato, Thames Valley, and there's a couple of others that
are also interested.
So it's starting to filter down to the regional level. So if there's any centres that are interested in Bowls Hub, let Colin know, me or whoever it might be at Bowls New Zealand will direct you in the right direction. And equally, if there's clubs that are interested, then we're always happy to position it there as well. It'd be stupid of me not to say that it's free.
Yes.
So that's, when I say free, is that Bowls New Zealand covers the cost of it with the supplier or the software provider. So, but it's free to centres, it's free to clubs to use. There will be no charge to individuals or to club centres.
And it requires some computer skills, but it's pretty intuitive, and Colin's good at we've got a couple of manuals written up, and he's always just a phone call or an email away, so you can figure it out. It's not that it's not super challenging, and it is certainly worth it. The other thing I like about Bowls Hub is it's not like the system we've got now is going to stay like that for the next 10 years. They take on board feedback and they release software updates quite regularly for the Bowls Hub system, so it's constantly improving. Even in the year that we've had it, I think they've released a slew of updates, and they now have they can do a 2Life system on it, and there's some other sort of bits and pieces, so it's constantly changing for the better. So if you sort of like what you see now, that doesn't mean that you that it's going to stay like that for the rest of time.
It'll improve, and it'll be wrong again. We should acknowledge that this is Bowls Australia's solution, so they call it Bowls Link. And all we've done is come along and put a new snazzy brand over the top of that.
And we fixed some of the Australian terminology as well.
Oh, have we? We've done that too. So which is really cool, because Bowls Australia are investing in this big time, and they have been. So this is a solution that they've been using for 3 to 4 years. Colin is over in Melbourne today.
Yeah, for
to work with them on their Bowls Link, our Bowls Hub. And to look at any improvements, etc. So I think that's it's going to be a very, very important tool for clubs, for regions, for Bowls New Zealand in the next few years. And I'll add too that if you are a club or a centre, especially a centre who's interested in Bowls Hub, is that we do, for want of a better term, pimp out Colin. And by that I mean that we offer Colin's services up to create your draws initially, to work with you on your first few events, all free of charge, so that we can get you up and going, instead of just throwing you, what we don't want to do is throw you a training manual and say, here, go for it. We will actually set up your membership for you, set up your events for you, and effectively hold your hand through those first few events.
And be there as a helpline if anything sort of doesn't go like it's supposed to. There's lots of support available there as well. So
Colin doesn't think he's playing bowls this summer, does he?
I don't know. He won't be listening to the podcast, so he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to know we've had this conversation. Right, talking about Bowls Hub and national events, the Somerset Nationals is coming up in next year. Do you want to have a chat to us, or can you please tell us where they're going to be hosted, Mark?
Yes, so we may not have done this with any noise till now, but and I'm not sure this is noisy. However, the Somerset Nationals next year will be held in Auckland, North Harbour.
Yes.
Primarily North Harbour, but clearly with the number of greens required for singles and pairs in January, we will need to use some Auckland clubs as well. So we're really excited to have that happen. And the reality is that when we require 30, 35 greens, it really is just Auckland and Christchurch, Auckland and Canterbury that can host the national Somerset singles and pairs. So North Harbour, Auckland for the singles and pairs. Really, really pleased to announce that or advise that the Somerset fours and Somerset mixed pairs will be back down in Central Otago.
Yeah,
that was a huge success 2 years ago.
Yeah,
slightly ruined by COVID hitting halfway through. But we're back. And hopefully Central Otago, I'm sure they are actually looking forward to this event again.
Oh, it's brilliant that they get another go, because we had that. I remember the finals day. It was so sad because everyone had been building up to it for the week, and then obviously we were put into whatever level, or I can't remember if it was levels or colours then.
50 people allowed inside,
yeah,
and we would have had about 50 or 80 sitting outside looking through a fence.
Yeah, looking through. And it's like, it was a shame, it had to happen, but I'm looking forward to there being a chance to do it properly this time if we touch wood and don't go back down that path.
Yeah, we are. So Central Otago this year, or next year I should say, in March and February March for the fours and mixed pairs. We will probably more than likely head back to Taranaki the year after.
Yeah.
For the fours and mixed pairs. The inter-centre inter-club are a little bit strange this year actually, because the 2022 finals are going to be in North Harbour, Browns Bay in October and November for the inter-centre inter-club sevens. But next year, in 2023, the Interclub Sevens is, where is it, Alex?
You're telling me, Mark?
Brilliant. It is Interclub Sevens. Geez, I'm going to get this wrong, aren't I? One's in Christchurch and one's in Wellington.
Oh, that's good enough. It's a year away.
Yeah.
We'll clarify that later. Yeah. But just quickly with
Thanks for the save.
No worries. With the Interclub and the Intercentre 2022 edition, this year we did the zones. So we just clarify that the finals in October are quite small, aren't they? There's only going to be your sort of six zone winners through.
Yep.
And then next year we're popping back to the original system. Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah, that's our intent next year. We decided we'd wait until after these finals had finished. And then we'll survey the centres.
Okay.
But we needed to make decision for next year. So we're staying with the all 26, 27 attending the Intercentre Interclub next year. But we'll look to get feedback through the summer and make decisions about the following year's format in that regard. It is nice though to have all teams together.
Yeah.
It's a good spectacle, and it's nice for teams to almost be acknowledged or recognised by turning up, and there's 25 others there. However, in saying that, there's the cost side of things, and playing these little regional tournaments and taking that winner to a national finals is far more cost effective.
Yeah, I suppose there's pros and cons left, right and centre for both, so we'll wait and see what happens there, but it's good that we know where they're going to be, even if we don't know what ones.
I'll throw out a couple, before you move on to your topic, I'll throw out a couple others. We've had a really poor 2 years in terms of trying to grow the game at the secondary school level, the under 20 level, or the youth level. So that's back on the, and that's obviously COVID has ruined a number of initiatives there. So in March of next year, we'll look to bring back the secondary schools nationals, and which will be a teams type 3-5 event. And then we're looking to introduce a New Zealand Rangatahi Nationals, which is a singles under 20 event. So it's not only secondary school, it's actually for those that are under
young
20.
people. Yeah.
And it's an area that our sport needs to reinvest in. We've got quite a good core of youth coming through in that sort of mid to late 20s type range now. But potentially we don't have the same sort of volume or same sort of quality coming through in the younger age groups at the moment.
And I suppose your mid to late 20s ones are often players who came through the system that we had 10, 15 years ago at the secondary school level. Yeah,
they are, but they've also been kept in the game and encouraged to be kept in the game, which is really nice. And evidence of this is the blackjack women's side going to the Commonwealth Games. Caitlin, Selena, Taylor and Nicole, well done Mark, I think they're all sort of 25, 28 years of age.
There was a photo I saw when they played the Trans-Tasman representing New Zealand as senior women, that they posted a picture of them representing New Zealand as senior women next to a picture of them representing New Zealand as under 18. An under 18 side, and said, look at this journey that we've had. I think that's pretty neat, eh? That's good to see.
It is special. And what's nice too is that we're getting there's a little bit of media. I know there's a couple of women's magazines looking to run a couple of stories on bowls, and one of them potentially featuring those 4 ladies.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I'm segueing, I'm pushing across the side, but I really enjoyed
I was just going to
the
say
story about Dean Robinson in the news the other night.
Yeah.
So here's a guy that had made the Commonwealth Games, which is an incredible story in itself for a vision impaired person. So makes the Commonwealth Games, goes to do the eye tests, and the optometrist or the eye specialist says, don't worry about the Commonwealth Games. Almost, I can fix. I can give you a pair of glasses and you can see. And you can imagine the emotions.
Oh, it's a roller coaster, eh?
Yeah,
it's incredible.
And it's just a really cool story. So if you do get a chance, flick on. I think I saw it on TV3's News Hub.
Yes, it is. Yeah, but
channel.
it's a few places have picked it up because it's that sort of story, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's a story about our community. I don't know what Dean's age is, etc. But certainly the vision impaired side of things, anyone can play the game.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. So I suppose if we wanted to segue on that, Dean's story's on a website. We have a website. Is there a new website that I've been hearing whispers about, Mark? And if there is, can you tell us what it's going to look like and maybe when it's going to come out?
Yes, there is a new website coming, so it's long overdue, possibly in some people's eyes. And websites have changed these days. 10 years ago, the website was almost the be-all and end-all of an organisation. Nowadays, with Facebook and social media, people are getting their news, their updates on what's happening within their sport or their organisation through those channels.
Yeah.
But the website still has value. So we are looking to... we're developing a new website at the moment. It's still going to take 2 or 3 months, 3 or 4 months to nail. But the broad concepts of it are, though, is that we're looking to have every single one of our clubs have their own page that we're up to date. It'll be pretty basic, how to contact the club, what the club offers, etc. In terms of business house bowls or Christmas functions or the number of greens and so on and so on. So it'll have a real feature around the clubs and then a real feature around the news and the TV side of things. We now have... can I describe it? We always talked in the past, and 2 or 3 years ago we were talking streaming.
Yes.
I feel like now we are a broadcaster in our own space, and I know that sounds, we're not Sky TV, we're not TVNZ, etc. But the reality is that on YouTube now we have Bowls NZ TV. And Bowls NZ TV has any number of events that are televised. And moving forward, I was sitting down with Tamara recently and we're working through the schedule for the next 12 months. And when you consider, Tamara's schedule is she does Champ of Champs, she's heading to the north and south, she's got, in September, she's got Inter-Centre and Inter-Club in October, November. We've got a World Champ of Champs singles in November as well. We've got the January, February, March full of nationals and intercenters and mixed pairs and all that. We've got bowls 3-5. That's just our calendar. And then when Tamara agrees, which she's doing, and she heads down there and she covers off indoor bowls. She did that a couple of weeks ago. She's doing the para nationals, and she's picking up some events around the country as well. That's a heck of a lot of content.
It is a lot of content, and it's good quality stuff as well. I think you're right, Mark. If you look at, we've done it to death, where we started with a tablet and one lapel mic plugged in at a corner of a green, looking across to what we've got now, where we have 8 static cameras, 2 or 3 ones that can be roaming cameras. There's 2 quite expensive broadcast computers, a couple of audio desks. You could go on and on and on about the amount of equipment we have, but it produces a really professional product, and I think it's often it's missed because it's easy to watch, but it's only easy to watch because it's really good. You know what I mean? Like it's easy to underestimate how much effort goes into creating this sort of stuff.
I was selling it to I had a meeting last night, and I was selling it to a potential partner, and I was just saying that Bowls isn't must-see TV. it's just good background filler TV.
Yeah.
So, you know, flick on the bowls or you channel surf across to the bowls and you'll end up watching it for 20 minutes, half an hour, because you can. Because it's an easy watch.
Yeah.
And that's a really nice space for us to be in. I think, you know, and I'm for fear of getting myself offside with individuals here, but I think visually now we've got our product up to a really good level. We've got some work to do around commentary, and that's not to slight those people that are involved in the commentary now, because they volunteer and they do a terrific job for us. But I think, you know, there isn't the consistency there yet, so we need to raise that bar in terms of commentary and you know, and have a consistency across all games that's at a level that it's probably not consistently at now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Have I offended anybody? Probably, but it's not meant to be that way. I mean, I was brought up on cricket, right?
Yes.
And you know, the summer of cricket, lazy hazy days of cricket, and listening to Waddle and Coney and Morrison and those guys, and a lot of that commentary was storytelling. It wasn't actually talking about the guys, you know, bowling left arm over and, you know, he's seaming it across, you know, across the guy's pads. It was actually telling stories. And I think that's where our sport needs to evolve to with some of our commentary. And again, that's just getting some good storytellers. And it's not so much about our, shall we say, our main broadcaster. It's about getting people in that are good storytellers to support that.
It's a brilliant segue to the last topic, Mark, because we were going to have a chat about, you know, the initiative of trying the new split screen broadcast and then the sourcing of local commentators from the places that we're at. So we're sort of halfway through that conversation already. Do you want to finish it off?
Brilliant. I knew I was heading in the direction for some reason with this conversation. Yeah, we do. We need so we are taking events around the country, and we've got some good people now who what do you call them? The host commentator, the
main commentator. I always think of Abbott and Costello. But, your main sort of, I can't remember what you call it.
We've got our Grant Nisbets.
Your voice.
Sort of, their voice. But what we need is we want some people to join into those commentaries and have a knowledge of their local players. But have a good history of the sport and be able to share some stories and that sort of stuff. So, you know, if there are people listening who are prepared to step up, we don't pay, but we do respect and value people's contribution.
And there is usually we provide a lunch, snacks and a drink. I think is what you get. Some
lollies and a can of Coke.
Yeah, depending on who's on there at the time, but there'll be food.
So we would very much like people to throw their names into the hat and excuse me, sorry, help us out with the space, because you know we're continuing to evolve with this Bowls TV, you know, and the visual stuff's getting better, and we'll look to make the commentary and the audio better, and you know, before long, you know, it won't be long before we are on some more mainstream platforms as well.
That's exciting. So, if someone's listening and they want to be a local commentator, are they best just to reach out to like a Tamara or just any one of who's the best person to have a chat to?
Well, you know how a team works, Alex. All of the above.
Anyone,
you know, if they contact you, you'll pass it to Tamara. So will I probably.
Yeah.
Just let us know whoever you're comfortable talking to within Bowls NZ.
So, Mark, we've completed all the bits and pieces you had written down to talk about. Is there anything else you want to chat before we move on to saying who's coming up next?
This just reminds me of my days with Kevin Hickland doing our Q&A. So well done, Alex Hickland. You've done all right.
No, I need a bit more practice before I get there. But it's been a good chat, Mark, and I think we'll make this a semi-regular thing on the Bowls Hour. Every now and then, maybe once a month, we'll have you on and just have a chat for the first half to 2/3, just about what's going on in the Bowls world. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, look, I appreciate the opportunity. I do try and get out and about as much as I can, but you know, you can't talk to everybody everywhere all year. So these are good opportunities.
Brilliant. Okay, well, on that note, Mark, coming up next, we're going to talk to Dean McMurchy here on the Bowls Hour. Welcome back to the Bowls Hour, brought to you by Somerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel. And now, Mark, we've got our newly crowned National Champion of Champions singles winner, Dean McMurchy, on the line. How are you feeling, Dean?
Oh, hi, Mark and Alex. I'm very, very thrilled. I'm, over the moon. It's a wonderful experience to win something like that, especially being a singles event as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I thought before we talk about how your weekend went, I wanted to start right at the beginning and get from you, what's your earliest memory of bowls?
Okay, so my earliest memory is going down and watching my dad play. He was a prominent Northland player in the sort of 70s and 80s. In my teenage years, I would have been in the 80s, so I used to go down and sort of watch him bowls. And I watch him play bowls, and it was like always interesting to, follow the game and watch the bowls. It was quite exciting, although it was a lot more difficult in those days because all the bowls were the same colour. So the advent of the coloured bowls over the years made things easier. But so that's how I kind of sort of got interested in bowls to begin with. And he played at the Kensington Club in Whangarei.
Did you think back then it was a sport that you would take up, or were you just sort of like, we'll just watch these people play?
I thought I might take it up at some stage. In my teenage years, I was actually a representative golfer, and I was playing top golf in those days, and I was also playing cricket over the summer and the golf over the winter. But once I sort of lost a little bit of interest with the cricket, I took up bowls in 91, 92. That was my first year at the Kensington Bowling Club.
Brilliant. And how did it go? How was your first season?
I had a brilliant first season. Now, in those days, Kensington was one of the bigger clubs in the country. It was an all-men's club that probably had about 200, 250 members, but I think previous to that, it got up to about 300-odd members back in those early days. I was one of the few young players that played at that time, and so it was kind of like a little bit of trying to break into the club. I was lucky that I had my dad there, but kind of like it was a little bit frowned upon, I think, by some of the members that somebody so young was playing. I was 20 when I had my first year. So I might have times have changed over the years. The first year was good. I won the first year singles. I also won the junior singles that year as well, and there was like about 20 odd playing in the junior singles, and around about 50 or 60 in the senior. I think I got down to the last four, so I had a really good first year at the club, and then I went on and won the champion first year singles, which in those days Northland encompassed where the far north centre is now. So we went from basically Wellsford through to Cape Reinga before the days that the Northland got split.
Are you still
in the mid-90s sometime?
Dean, are you still playing golf in that or not?
Just a weekend warrior, Mark, with the golf. Bash around about 80 or 85 sort of thing.
That's not a bash around 80, 85, mate. 100, 105 is a bash around. That's a bit of quality.
Yeah.
So the golf obviously helped you with your bowls in terms of, I don't know, the competitive side of things. And I wouldn't say conditioning, maybe conditioning. But it helped you out, the golf? Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you're hitting shots into the green, you get a bit of a idea of like depth perception, which is kind of like useful in bowls. Like you hit a golf shot that pin high, and you think, it looks quite a long way away, but when you actually get up there, it's not that far away, as opposed to a shot that might look right on the flag, but when you get up to the green, it's like 20 metres short sort of thing. So I guess it helps with that, and touch with putting. It possibly has like a bit of a contributing factor to bowls, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yep. Well, it's not as physically demanding as bowls as golf is these days in terms of walking around those courses sometimes. Hey, centre titles and things like that. How have you gone within Northland? Are you clearly you're a champion.
How many times?
I've got a few now.
How many's a few?
So I've got 11. In my early years when I played in Whangarei, because I had been out of the area and travelled overseas and stuff, but basically in the early 90s I picked up a 2. But I was just looking the other day, and basically since 2013 to now, I've picked up 9. So in recent times I've sort of come into it quite well to get my 11.
Would you say you're more of a singles sort of discipline, singles pairs versus triple fours, or where would you sort of position your game?
It's only in the last couple of years I've sort of won a few singles titles at centre level. It's been pretty much team games that I've got those titles in. I led for Gordon Bond a couple of years when he was at Kensington. It's been more the team events, but I've got the double now. So this year when I won the Champ of Champs singles, it went with my Open singles that I won about 2 years ago. So I've got just the 2 singles titles plus this one. And
are you, sorry, excuse my ignorance, but are you playing centre reps as well? Is that part of your gig with bowls?
Yep, I am. Alex knows that. I've struck him a couple of times this last season. So, So I've been basically playing in the pairs with that. And in the last one, I played the singles and I encountered Alex, I think. So,
yes, yeah. The pairs you would have picked up, was that the Mike Galloway-Alex combination for Auckland, was it? In the intercentre
yes, it was, yep.
Versus you guys. How'd you go against them? Oh, he's got a grin on his face. Don't answer the question.
Way too good.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't have to do much, to be fair.
Yeah, Mike was playing well, but mind you, Alex was playing very well. But I had a really good game with against Alex. It might have been in the Interclub Sevens.
It was very
really
stressful.
Close, Alex. At Browns Bay a couple of months back. So.
Happy days. Okay.
It was happy days for you.
Absolutely.
With the red shoes.
So I can find them. So clubs that you've played for, Dean, you said you've sort of been around a bit. You started off at Kensington. Where do you play your bowls out of now? Is it back there or are you somewhere different?
No, so the last 3 seasons I've been at the Onarahi Bowling Club. The reason why I changed was that the green at Onarahi was the only real Mangia Toto green that we have up here in Northland, and I thought it would be good for my bowls. So basically, when I've been in Whangarei, I have been more or less a member of Kensington, where I started off. So in between times, I've played bowls in Australia, where I played in Melbourne. I lived there for a couple of years. And I was really fortunate when I was over in Australia that I happened to go into a club that was a Premier Division pennant club. I had no idea what pennant was. They threw me in their top side and we actually got to a Premier final back in 99-2000 with the Burwood Club. So I've had an experience. It's only in the later years I've actually realised what an opportunity that was back then, because it's quite a big thing over there in Australia, and playing in a Premier side is quite an honourable thing to actually get into if you can. So fortunate there. And then when I returned to New Zealand, I played out of the Frankton Junction Bowling Club for around about 8 years in Hamilton before I came back to Kensington when I moved back up north. So that's been the range of clubs that I've played out over the years.
No, good. Hey, the weekend, you clearly you had a good weekend.
Went okay.
Went okay.
Yeah.
And I don't mind sharing with you. I wasn't at the event for the weekend, but I was at my local club. I play out of Riverhead, which is down here in the North Harbour region, and I think I saw 2 of your games on screen, and we would have had 30 to 40 people around the bar watching your games. And others as well. I mean, Bart, you played Bart in the final, and he's a local. He's another sort of North Harbour boy in terms of Helensville. But it was great. It was just really, really cool competition, and good to see you on screen. So I've almost done the sales pitch for the event for you, but you enjoyed the event. How did you find it? Because it was carpet and it was singles and everything like that. How did you enjoy the event?
Yeah, no, it was really good, and just further what you're saying there, that on, I think it was the Friday evening, I had a game scheduled on TV, and it happened to coincide with Onarahi Club Night, and with the timing at 5:20, there was a lot of members, I believe, at the bowling club, and they Chromecast onto the big screen there, so it created like a really good thing from a club perspective. Brilliant. On a Friday night, seeing that. So that was really, really good.
Dean, were they all watching the one side of the screen, were they? With a new split screen? They're all looking to the right or the left. I can't remember what side you're on, but you're on one of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure. To be honest, I haven't been to the club yet, so I need to go and pop in and see them and find out how they all found it. But I'm sure that I had lots of comments from club members, which was really really great through like Facebook and emails and.
Oh, excellent.
So that was really really good. Look, playing on the indoor, like I don't get a lot of much of a chance to actually play on indoor because we don't have one up at Northland at this point. Nice to have, not have to worry about the weather. Nice not to have to worry about wind. And it's just really key, just trying to find your line. Once you've got your line, it's you're just spinning it down the chute every time, and getting that consistency. And I've always said to people, like the junior players, it's always key. If you can find that line, you'll find your weight. And so, you've got a lot of the variables taken out of it when you're playing indoors on the carpet. The conditions don't really change. However, in the final against Bart, it did change. There weren't many people in the clubhouse, and the clubhouse cooled down, the carpet cooled down, which had an effect on the speed in the final. So it was a little bit slower. I think over the weekend, I think it ran about 15 seconds on average, but it probably dropped down to about 13 maybe for the final. And you may have seen the coverage that quite often Bart and I was like dropping a bit short there. Always on a good line, but it comes down to the speed, and it did. That was the only time that it really adjusted. I think the conditions was probably in the final because of the coolness within the clubhouse. But we were told that by some of the locals that's what happened. So,
did they tell you before or after the final?
Before. I had my mate Murray Glassy down there, who's one of the locals, and he mentioned that's what happened. So, I just seemed to happen to find it a little bit better in the final than Bart. But I think if you had Bart on, both of us would say probably our semi-final games were probably our best games of the tournament. Absolutely brilliant games.
Yeah. Do you want to talk us through your semi-final? Because that went right to the wire, didn't it?
Yeah, so Dave Clark from Counties, very, very good player. I knew it was going to be a tough game against him. I drew really, really well. He drew really, really well. I got away on him a little bit in the middle stages of the game, and I got to about, I think it was around about 18-10. I was in front or something like that. And I had some really fantastic heads, and I was thinking, this is really good. I had 2s and 3s, and he would just play like an incredible bowl, get the shot, and there's a couple of heads there I think, there's no way he can get the shot, but he managed to play like an amazing bowl and get the shot. So it was one of those games I was thinking, oh gosh, am I ever going to get across the line? But I just kept on just sticking to the draw. On about the second to last end, I think I was 20-18 in front. But I had a bad head, and Dave had 2 shots, and he had, with his last bowl, the opportunity to actually win the game. I had a couple of chances in some of the earlier ends to win the game and close out, but didn't. But he had a chance there, and he probably had about maybe 3 feet to draw the winning shot, and he, thankfully for me, just snuck past. So he got 2 to force this all-exciting last end, and he had the shot on that last end, so I played a little bit of a run shot at the head, and I made contact with my bowl, which landed on his shot bowl, pushed it through. There's a bit of a scatteration, and when I walked up, I wasn't quite sure whether I'd done enough or not, and see Dave bring out the measure. I thought, oh crikey, what's going to happen? And so the bowl that he was measuring was probably about 2 feet out, and I got in on like he said it was around about half an inch. So that's all it is. Bowls is a game of inches at times, and
or
it
half
just fell,
inches.
it fell for me on that occasion, which was really exciting.
For sure. And so then you won your final, and you got out in front and sort of stayed there and that. But how did it feel to win you're now a winner. You're a national champion of champion singles winner. Has it sunk in yet? What are the emotions that go through when that happens?
Well, I've been runner-up twice now in nationals, and so I think it makes a big difference when you've actually been in a couple of finals. I felt actually quite surreal this time round. I didn't really get nervous at any point, even towards the end. I knew I was getting close. Because the final was not quite as good a quality game as semi-finals, it kind of felt a little bit, believe it or not, anticlimactic to a little bit of a point. And then when I finally realised I got my 3 shots to win in that last end, it was kind of like a bit of shock. Didn't know what to say, and then it kind of sets in after you've shaken the hand and signed the card, and you go, oh my gosh, done it, knock that one off, woohoo!
Brilliant, mate. Right. You did really well. So congratulations from us, obviously, for your maiden national title. It was a pleasure to see, and as you said, that especially that semi-final was a cracker of a game.
Yeah, and good to see. So I've got one more question for you, Dean, before we let you get back on.
Is this your silly question every week?
It's a bonus question.
Oh, a bonus question.
We don't call it a silly question. This is my bonus question. So if you've listened to the Bowls Hour before, we've had 20-something of them now, so we're running out of questions. But the last question we ask is always something a bit, nothing to do with bowls. I've asked about mousetraps before and how you have your eggs. So the question I'm going to pose to you this time, Dean, and we'll go sort of like it's a healthy bowls lunch or whatever. When you go to Subway, what's your go-to Subway?
Pork riblet sub with barbecue sauce.
Toasted or fresh? Fresh. Fair enough.
Alex, what's yours?
I'd go a meatball, but it has to be toasted.
Really?
Meatball with everything except for jalapenos, because I like to have the olives. And you chuck it. Used to be Thousand Island and barbecue sauce, but the Thousand Island sauce is gone now. But it has to be, for me, it has to be a toasted one.
I don't think I've had Subway in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And I used to love chicken satay, but I remember they took it off the menu.
It's back.
Is it back?
Yeah.
Okay. Chicken satay then. How's that?
Brilliant. Oh well.
Sorry, Dean. It is the bonus question, but it's also the silly question.
It's always also an interesting and a really important question to ask.
Brilliant.
Thank you. I needed that.
Yeah, you've justified his role at Bowls New Zealand now.
This is great.
Well done, Dean. Hey, mate, well done. Congratulations on that, on your victory. We've got Alex. We've got the Pears down Dunedin this weekend.
Yeah.
Then we go back to Wellington, up to Wellington for the triples,
and then back to Hastings.
For Hastings. You're not in any of those, are you? As well, Dean? You haven't got greedy.
No, that's it from me. But I'm really interested and keen to see the coverage from our Northland boys in those events through your live streaming. So yeah, brilliant innovation. So thank you for doing that.
No worries, Dean. It's our pleasure on that one, and it's vital to, if we're going to grow our game, we need to get we need to get people on screens basically, so people can see our game. So
excellent.
It's our pleasure, mate.
Cool. Thank you very much, Dean, and have a good rest of your day.
Cool. Thanks, Mark and Alex. Have a good one.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Bowls Hour, the show for all things bowls. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, remember to share it around. We can be found on Facebook every week from 7 p.m, as well as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, the Bowls New Zealand website, or wherever you get your podcasts. Tune in next week for more talk about everything bowls, and until then, roll on.
They were rampaging along, won their first 2 games. They've lost their last 2, but they could have probably won both of them.
Fantastic looking facility there in the deep south.
I'm sure they're going to come out firing tonight.
From memory, he was leading last week. Are you going to be leading this week, or?
For bottom with 6 points and second for bottom with 5. Yes and no. Yes and no. It paid off for them. They got a 2, double the 4 and won 6 points. Depends what the teams above you do, doesn't it?
The Bowls Hour, brought to you by Somerset Retirement Villages and Dynasty Apparel.